Hello and welcome to NPC, that stands for Next Portable Console, the show about the games we take with us and, also the consoles we take with us. I'm one of your co-hosts, Federico ETG, and I'm joined, as always, for now, by Brendon Bigley. Hello, Brendon.
Hello. The waning days of me being in the United States of America.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah. Pretty soon I'm going to have to hold the East Coast down all by myself.
Yeah. We will be globally distributed.
We will.
This podcast.
True. A blockchain of podcasts, if you will. Oh, God. We're also joined, as you can see, by John Voorhees. Hello, John.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be here. And, I don't know why you had to go to the blockchain with that.
Was not expecting to make a joke about crypto. I don't know. I honestly don't know why I did it. I don't know why. I don't even know what a blockchain is. It's just one of those words.
All right.
I feel horrible. I feel like I need a shower after saying
What's
that.
your non-fungible token?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there we go.
We could change.
Boy.
Yeah,
Web3. We're going to Web3 this podcast.
Our next portable coin.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I feel like we should do a meme coin and just call it Johncoin. That's what
I love Johncoin.
I would totally do Johncoin.
It's gonna it'll rival Dogecoin before you know it.
I do think it should just be pebbles we find in the street that we etch like a J into.
Like a J?
Like it needs to be fungible. It needs to be like an actual physical pebble.
Just gravel we find in the streets of New York.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Take a knife to.
Enough about whatever that was.
I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on anymore.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm starving today. I didn't have any carbs at lunch, and I feel like I'm starting to feel that.
Damn.
We have some, and for an Italian, that's a big deal. We have we have some news to cover. It's the Tariffs corner. I'm sorry. We have some good news and some bad news. John, give me the good news first, I guess.
All right. Well, the good news is that Retroid has found another shipping company. They haven't really said who it is, but Retroid is not raising prices, and they have another shipping alternative that they're testing right now, and they're hoping to be able to continue to do business as usual in the United States. So that is good news.
That's good.
But I hate to tell you guys, we do have a little bad news too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Powkitty is not going to be shipping to the United States.
Not a surprise.
They have paused shipments. Not surprising. And 8-Bit Dough, they've also suspended shipping, which is a bummer because
that one hurts.
That
it really hurts,
especially for you guys.
Yeah.
My bank account is going to be a lot fuller, I think, if this sticks around. But
I'm looking at 4 8-Bit Dough controllers right now on my desk.
I can see one. No, 2.
Well, it sounds like
maybe I have enough. Maybe that's the.
Sounds like you're gonna be looking at them a little while longer.
Yeah.
Unless you can buy an 8-bit Dough controller in Japan. You can do that.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
he
true.
probably
all of
could.
this stuff I can just get shipped to Japan very easily. I think.
He's going to
finally
come
get a
back with
Powkitty
so
device
much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also have.
I'll
that
be the
feeling.
one
We'll
guy
see.
with a Powkitty handheld.
Not a huge surprise about Powkitty, especially all these hardware makers that make not expensive devices.
Mm-hmm.
Not a huge surprise. It's unfortunate, but for now it is what it is. I feel like this year for that style of device will be different from last year.
It'll be slow,
sure.
I think. I think it'll be slow. I mean, as we record this on Friday, the tariffs kicked in today in the United States. At least the Chinese 145%.
Oh, it's
tariff
today.
kicked in.
Okay, yeah.
It kicked in at midnight. So we're not going to see, I think, a lot of those smaller manufacturers shipping to the U.S. in the near term. But this stuff has been changing day to day, week to week. So it could be that something shakes loose down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, just anecdotally, not even anecdotally, this is a fact, but like Trump's approval ratings lower than ever.
Yeah.
And then anecdotally, I saw a bunch of screenshots from Truth Social today of people just like dunking on Donnie for all of his tariff stuff because it's affecting everybody, and it's very obvious what's happening. And I think the Amazon stuff that happened recently, right? Like Amazon started to list the tariffs on the website. And the White House responded saying it was a hostile political act to do so. Was like, it's about as blatant and about as obvious as it can be that like he individually ruined the economy, and it's his fault that this is happening. And I think the more you just shove it in his face, the more likely he probably will be, hopefully, fingers crossed, to walk it back. But we'll see.
It is so on everybody's mind. Jennifer, my wife, walked into a Thai restaurant a few days ago for lunch, and she mentioned the tariffs to the guy behind the counter, like the owner of the place.
Yeah.
And she got a 15-minute rant about how small businesses are being ruined by the tariffs. I mean, it's on everybody's mind. And this was just a guy running a Thai restaurant in the suburbs. So
yeah, what we're saying, and I think it's always worth extrapolating this out. Like, we are a show about portable handhelds and gaming, but like, this is going to affect everything. And the way that this is affecting everything is like, we're already seeing shipping container inventory dropping by 60%, I think, in the next like 3 or 4 weeks. We're gonna have like COVID levels of stock depletion in the United States.
yeah. Yeah,
It's,
I've
it's
seen
gonna hit
estimates that June, July, we'll start seeing empty shelves in
Yeah.
grocery stores, Targets, those kind of places.
just in time for me to come home, which will be great.
Yeah.
Well,
Right,
you
right.
guys, you guys are welcome here. In case
Okay.
in case you want.
Set up shop in
we're,
Shea Tichi.
we're gonna have a new pope, if that's of interest.
That
You
is
know-
interesting to me.
There's gonna be a
Do you think
con-
he'll hang
That's
out with
the
us?
single reason I'll come visit.
there's
Yeah.
gonna be a conclave, so that's gonna be that's obviously gonna be
Love
the
that
event.
movie.
Good movie. It's gonna be the event of the year. Fun fact for you guys.
Yeah, hit me.
Okay, so this is a fun conclave fact. So the word conclave comes from Latin cum clave, which means with key. And it means with key in that they were actually, back in the medieval times, they were actually locking in the cardinals to make sure that they would elect a new pope. Now,
Right.
one of the things about my hometown of Viterbo, John probably knows this. We have the so-called, in Italian, it's called Palazzo Papale. It means like
All right.
the papal the papal palace. That is because for a few years, my hometown of Viterbo was the town where the new pope was elected, like 600 or 700 years ago. And this particular one election of the new pope, it lasted for months. And they just wouldn't make up their minds about like electing the new pope. So they actually locked the cardinals inside. And at one point, because it was going for like 2 or 3 or 4 months, at one point the people outside got tired of like all the clergy not making a decision. They actually destroyed the roof of the building and got in and told them like, look, you gotta
Yelling at them.
Yes. And so after that,
Get out of our town.
After that, they elected a new pope and they moved the pope election to Avignon in France, and then eventually came back to Rome many years later. So that's a fun conclave fact.
They got fed up with those people from Viterbo.
They got fed up with multiple months of waiting, and
Yeah,
John, you saw that place, like that big fancy place with all the arches and
The big church at the end of the
big church at the end. Yes, that's what you saw. Yeah. Anyway, Nintendo.
That was
Switch,
a fun conclave fact. Thank you.
yeah. Moving along, like right beyond that, the Nintendo Switch 2. So we
Good
have,
transition.
yes, we have some, info. I mean, the Nintendo Switch 2 is launching in a month. It feels kind of crazy. This is happening. One small glimmer of hope in what we're talking about today between dead popes and tariffs. So you guys know that people have been going to the Nintendo Switch 2 experience events around the world, and they've been trying to speedrun Breath of the Wild on the Nintendo Switch 2.
I think it's great.
I saw a couple of things. I saw a guy who tried to finish the game. I believe the person accomplished.
They did.
They were able to finish Breath of the Wild with Link naked, like not wearing beyond nothing except the underpants, obviously, that you can wear in Breath of the
when
Wild.
he comes out of the cave with, basically.
Exactly how
Right.
he comes out of the long slumber, 100-year slumber. They finished Breath of the Wild like that. And also another person tried to speed run Breath of the Wild using the old techniques, like some of these advanced moves, like throw a bomb in the air and then jump and then like shoot across the sky for like 2 kilometers. They were not exactly great at that, but they tried, and Nintendo just let them do it. They didn't care that the guy was trying to break the game. So fun times if you are able to go attend the still ongoing Switch 2 experience events across the world. You can try to speedrun Breath of the Wild, and Nintendo representatives won't care if you do.
Yeah.
So that's
it's
cool.
worth mentioning, like, this is partially to see how much they've changed under the hood in these Switch 2 editions of the game.
Right.
Like, are they patching new stuff? Are they changing the game outside of just, adding the app to your phone and also having it output in 4K? But it seems like a lot of this stuff is just exactly the same as it was. It just looks nicer. And that's honestly, I think, probably the move. I think that's all I really wanted.
Yeah, part of me wonders if maybe like they know that they have this great speedrunning community with Breath of the Wild, especially. So why take it away from them when you can just say, just keep speedrunning the 4K version of Breath of the Wild on a Nintendo Switch 2. So that's basically free advertising.
It's interesting because like Nintendo is sometimes very good at that and sometimes horrible at that, right? Like there have also been instances of them going after Breath of the Wild speedrunners and modders, and like going after their businesses and hitting them with cease and desist and stuff. Really weird. Really. The thing I always say is Breath of the Wild came out in 2017. It has been out for now almost 8 years, I think, at this point. And the idea that you would have a game a single player game 8 years later that people are still making content about and there's a thriving community around and you would go after them in any way, shape, or form for providing free advertising, as you were just saying, Federico. It's like it's such a wild conceit. Versus a company like Bethesda, for example, who's like, let's release Skyrim as many times as we possibly can until it's no longer relevant. And then switch to something else like Oblivion.
Also, speaking of the Switch, we have the software update for version 20. Now, this is the possibly the last major software update for the Switch firmware that adds support for a bunch of Switch 2 related things. Switch 2 transfer, virtual game cards, and I think that's about it, actually. So just getting the house in order for the Switch
game
1.
Share, I think.
And game share, sorry, thank you.
There's also a new eShop.
New? Oh yeah, I saw somewhere that they got rid of some of the AI slop that found that found its way.
Oh, really?
I don't know how they're doing it. Honestly, there was this story a few weeks ago that like the Nintendo eShop was dominated by these weird games, like these ripoffs and these AI generated games. And I saw somewhere that that's mostly gone now. I don't envy the challenge that Nintendo has in trying to regulate these games. I mean, it's also a problem on Steam. It's a problem.
Don't they have some sort of review process for getting on the
I have no idea. I've never seen anything like actually publicly documented about like, is there like a Nintendo review board? I mean, there has to be somewhere.
Yeah, you'd imagine there would be, right? Especially considering like when you submit a patch to a game, there is, generally speaking, a pretty long delay between that submission and when it gets released to the public. So I assume somebody's checking something.
Somebody somewhere is. John, can you tell me now, switching topics, can you tell me about this StikDebug thing? What is StikDebug?
So StikDebug, I first heard about in connection with Alt Store Pal, which is the alternative app store for iOS, for the iPhone, that is only available in the EU. Because you and I, Federico, know Riley and his partner who put together Delta and Alt Store and all that stuff. And we had some email back and forth with him about it back, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago. Turns out, and one of the things that he told us about was that StikDebug was coming to Alt Store Pal. Well, it turns out it's on the regular app store now, at least as of the time we're recording this. I know it appeared on 9to5 Mac yesterday, and it's possible that gets taken down by Apple, because what it does is that it enables JIT on the iPhone for any app. So you'll be able to do things like use the Dolphin emulator, for instance, which really isn't possible out of the box on the iPhone without doing a fair amount of workarounds and hacking type things. So this will enable that just by installing this app. I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah. So this is part of this new generation of JIT enabler utilities. And my understanding is that how these utilities work, they set up a VPN profile for you. And they basically attach a remote debugger from like a remote instance of Xcode to enable JIT in a local app on your device as if it were connected to an instance of Xcode on your computer.
That makes sense.
It's kind of like Tailscale. You know how Tailscale sort of enables you to kind of have a remote device, a remote computer, as if it were on your local network. It's kind of like that. The fact that it's still on the App Store is kind of wild because typically like these tools were taken down very quickly. It's not the first time that one of these utilities has found its way on test flight. I've been on a bunch of different Discord servers where people were exchanging these apps, but this one has been on the App Store for a full 24 hours at this point, possibly even more. Still not gone, and it highly simplifies the process of enabling JIT in Dolphin. And I mean, I've tried to use Dolphin. I think I talked about this on the show before. I sort of tried to brute force Dolphin emulation on the M4 iPad Pro because you have so much performance headroom on that device, and still like without JIT, it was basically impossible to do it. So this way you can do stuff like 4K Wind Waker on your iPad or your iPhone, and it just doesn't care. Or if you're into Switch emulation, you can also do that, and you can enable JIT for one of those remaining Switch emulators. So I do wonder, given the current climate, and given the fact that Apple right now could use as much developer goodwill as they can.
I have a conspiracy theory about all this. Go ahead.
I wonder,
you're getting there.
I wonder if come WWDC we'll see a proper JIT entitlement for developers, and Apple just saying, we heard you. You want to enable JIT in your emulators? Here's a sandboxed, officially approved way to do it.
Yeah. I suspect that this has survived on the App Store for 24 hours, largely because Apple has its hands full with the court decision that came down holding them in contempt, civil contempt in California for basically, I will call them App Store shenanigans.
While we're on the topic, I think something interesting that I think we're going to start seeing now and over the next few weeks. I am already seeing a lot of developers, a lot of indie developers, take advantage of this court decision to put donation buttons in their apps so that now you can actually donate to a developer directly by going to their Patreon, by going to their websites, or to the coffee page, whatever it is, instead of having to use in-app purchases and therefore the developer taking 30% less of your donation.
Smart.
I think we're going to start seeing these also for indie developers when it comes to video games. Donation buttons that take you to a website where you can just donate to the developer instead of having to use the tip jars that are powered by Apple's own in-app purchasing system.
Right.
Yeah. Let me throw out this idea that we'll start seeing game streaming apps coming out on the App Store. Microsoft, for instance, selling you a game outside the App Store, but letting you stream it to your iPhone.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. That's
very interesting.
At this point, that can happen because we knew that Microsoft could do a game streaming client for Xbox Cloud last year when Apple officially allowed game streaming, but the injunction for not taking a commission on external purchases was not in place. Now Microsoft can have a game streaming app on the App Store and not pay Apple a commission.
Keep all the money.
Keep all the money.
$60 game, keep all the money.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen.
Or $80 game.
Or $80 game.
As of yesterday.
Yeah. I think that can happen, actually. Good call. Yeah. We'll
Can I ask you guys a StikDebug related question?
Yeah.
I feel like you guys know better than me at this point. Dolphin iOS. What do you think the odds are that launches on the App Store? in any meaningful capacity.
If
JIT becomes a thing that is enabled for developers to make use of.
I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna
I
do
think
it.
so too.
If they're gonna have a native JIT entitlement, I think they're gonna do it because basically when they put out that blog post a few months ago, their whole thing was like, yeah, we'd love to do it. The app is ready, but we do not have JIT on iOS, and we don't want to ask people. Like, we don't want to risk the 1-star reviews because the games run badly, and
Right.
it's too convoluted to explain to people how to enable JIT because, like, you gotta be a developer. So I think they will.
Yeah, people are doing it. I mean, people are using it, connected to a Mac, for instance, connecting their iPhone to a Mac. So it is doable. That's essentially what StikDebug is doing, just remotely, as Federico explained. So, I expect we'll see it if there's some sort of JIT entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Apple has been kind of wishy-washy about what they consider to be like retro emulation.
It's true.
And I'll be curious to see if Nintendo now having GameCube via Nintendo Switch Online will in any way prevent Apple from allowing Dolphin. We'll see. It's interesting. It's in this weird gray zone. I would very much like to see that not be the case, but
yeah, no, Apple has definitely relied pretty heavily on the retro. They've definitely leaned into the idea of it being retro. That's exactly what the app review guidelines say. So I could see that being the reason they say no.
Yeah. Now, moving on. I feel kind of incredible asking this question in 2025. John, what's the deal with Flappy Bird?
Well, it's back, baby.
Is it?
It's back, but not really. I mean,
we're circling all the way back to crypto now.
We really are circling back to crypto because this is a story that was out there months ago now, and I don't recall if it was.
I think we
NPC.
mentioned it. I think we mentioned it on the show, actually.
I think we did very early on, but the original developer is not involved. The original developer let their intellectual property rights lapse to Flappy Bird. Those property rights got picked up by somebody, and they were teasing last summer a new version of Flappy Bird coming. People did some digging on the internet, as they always do, and they found that the company that bought the rights had something to do with crypto and NFTs and Web3 and all that stuff. And that was kind of the last we heard about it for a while. But it turns out this week, the game actually did come out on Android. So it's out there now, and you can pick it up on Android. But I suspect, they made a big deal of it being an exclusive on Android. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not on iOS because it has crypto baked into it, because Apple has some pretty strict rules around crypto stuff.
I will say, worth highlighting, they did make a statement. Flappy Bird Publishing, the company, made a statement that they have
I did not know that.
Removed all of the Web3 elements, and that will never have any Web3 or crypto elements in it.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
Which is interesting. It is monetized, quote, solely by ads and in-app purchases.
Okay,
but we'll see.
All right.
Because it was pitched as, quote, the world's first open source community owned Web 2 and Web 3 video game.
Yes.
So pretty big walk back from that. But I don't know. We'll see. I think if I were to guess, like most developers making things these days, making games like this of this scale, quote unquote, at this stage are like looking for some kind of deal, whether it be through an Apple Arcade or an Epic Game Store or something like that. Just whoever can subsidize the cost of making the thing. And I would imagine they just got a good deal from Epic, and
maybe
that was the ball game.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about handhelds. We got some news to share, and then I think John will share some more Retroid Pocket Flip 2 impressions. Because we talked about that device in NPC XL, and we figured we also wanted to sort of follow up on that in the main show. Now, Anbernic may be gearing up to release a new handheld, and that, Brendon, could be an SP version of the RG34XX. So,
yes,
an SP version of the GBA style device that came out toward the end of last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was like November, December.
Yeah.
Thoughts about this? What's the vibe check?
Yeah, my overarching feeling is I'm going to need some kind of hardware revision outside of just the screen. I think the making something that's a little bit more true to the aspect ratio of the original Game Boy Advance SP, I think is really exciting. I think that's great. I think people loved the 34XX. Like, that's a device. I mean, you guys have it. People like it a lot. I've never really been the biggest fan of the original Game Boy Advance form factor. It just never felt like super comfortable to me. And the SP also, I think, is interesting in that it's just like Anbernic's SP specifically is interesting in that, like, it's really good, but also very clicky and feels very bulky and just feels like cheap from a plastic perspective. Was kind of my takeaway from it after using it for as long as I did. And I've fully moved over to the Miu Flip at this point. And it's going to take a lot to convince me to get anything that is even remotely close to the Miu Flip. It needs to be like markedly better. And I'll be curious to see if it's just launching like literally with the exact same form factor and the same plastic and the same feel and everything, just with a 3x4 screen. Like, I don't know if that's going to be, I don't know if that's going to be enough to move the needle. It plays into Anbernic's thing, which is just like kill them with as many options as possible. But I don't know if that option in particular is going to be appealing to me unless they make some like real changes.
Yeah, feels like a real Game Boy Advance specific version of what we already have that, I don't know, it doesn't really get me excited either.
Yeah. The 35XX SP also is great for Game Boy Advance. Like, it's already really great for Game Boy Advance. It's really just like, you're going to have pixel perfect scaling, and that's going to be really exciting for, I think, the people who really care about that. But I will say, having pixel imperfect scaling has not stopped me from playing a lot of Game Boy Advance games on the 35XX SP.
Yeah. Now, John, we mentioned before the Ayaneo Pocket Ace. This is the latest. This is the retro-inspired handheld by Ayaneo that was promising to revolutionize the retro gaming space. Now, this thing is now on Indiegogo.
Yep.
And as we previously discussed, it's carrying those new Snapdragon G3 Gen 2 chipsets, specifically optimized for gaming. As you may expect, it's not an affordable device. The early bird price starts at $340, going all the way up if you want the retro power flavor to $600.
Oh my gosh.
So a bit of a spectrum there. Yeah. I mean, good.
It's typical Ayaneo pricing, right? I mean, that's they start with a price that's already too much, and they go to something that's nosebleed.
And once it hits retail, the final retail price for the retro power version, which comes with 16 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage, but the retail price will be $700. So if you want to spend $700 on a 1 terabyte retro console, maybe you should get the discount at $600 instead for big savings.
Big savings on a 4.5-inch screen that's 1080p. So and it's LCD. It's not OLED or anything like that.
I truly don't understand. I'm sorry, Ayaneo. I love you and your weird ideas sometimes, but this one is a bit of a pickle. This one.
It's not.
This is a big nope.
It's a 1080p screen, but it's 1620 by 1080, so it's a 3:2 aspect ratio, which means I will say this: the Ein Odin 2 Mini, probably still my favorite device. That thing I have a 1 terabyte SD card in because it can play literally everything, and everything will look good, and there's enough screen real estate to play stuff that is 1080p, like actually 16:9 1080p, and then everything in between. But I can't imagine buying a 1 terabyte version of a thing that has a Game Boy Advance aspect ratio on it.
Yes,
I can't imagine that.
There's maybe 20 gigabytes of Game Boy Advance games in the entire library. I mean, I don't even know what it is, but it's like you're certainly going to have to be playing chunkier games on that to use any amount of that 1 terabyte drive.
Yeah.
No idea. That being said, Brendon, did you see the announcement for the new CMF phone?
Yes.
I did.
You have the first one, right?
I do. Is it behind me? No, it's not. I moved it to my bedroom. I have the first one. I really like it. I think it's an amazing device. The CMF Phone 2 Pro is what they're calling it. Is very similar, just better in every single way. I'm kind of amazed that they released one this quickly. I thought it was going to be like literally a full calendar year before we got a new one. From what I saw, the price is going up by not that much. Yeah, it's going to be $279. I think the one that I got was $200 flat. So you're getting like a much better camera and a much better phone and a much better screen, and it has 3 cameras on it. It's worth mentioning. It's just a lot of improvements for about $60-$70, which I think is like pretty cool. I think CMF as like a brand under Nothing feels to me like the founder of Nothing, it's worth mentioning, was also the founder of OnePlus under, oh my God, what is that other company? I don't remember. But it's another one that started with an O, but I can't remember the name of it. Point being, OnePlus was Oppo, yes. Yeah. OnePlus was launched as like the budget flagship, like, we can do both. We can be flagship and be budget simultaneously. And then so quickly OnePlus went off the rails with that and just became flagship phones at flagship prices. And then spun off into Nothing, being this new independent thing, which also launched with that mentality and then very quickly became flagship phones, flagship prices. And now we have CMF. And I think the thing about it that's really smart is like they're leaning into the design side of things, and they are also, most importantly, leaning into using cheaper materials. They don't feel bad, but they're cheaper. And I think that that's probably the best option if they want to keep that mentality forever instead of just abandoning it like they seem to do over and over again. But I will say, as somebody who owns the CMF Phone 1, that thing rocks if you want an Android device that is like very decently powerful and can play most stuff, and you just want to wrap it in a controller and be done with it. Like, comparing that against a Retroid Pocket Flip or something, like it's a reasonable ask to be like, maybe I'll just pick that up instead.
Yeah. And finally, John, how are you liking your Retroid Pocket Flip 2?
I am loving it. It's really great. I mean, we talked about this a couple of times on XL because there's Federico's. I think mine's upstairs. Oh no, here it is. I got it right here. So Federico's got the GameCube style one, and I have the 16-bit style one. And it is remarkably comfortable for a device that really isn't different from the Retroid Pocket 5 in terms of the hardware in a lot of respects. It feels like an entirely different device because you're not wrapping the screen in a controller. You have the controls beneath the screen, and it makes a world of difference. This thing is a little thick still, but it's very comfortable to hold. It really feels good in the hand where you can wrap your index fingers around the shoulder buttons and get to the triggers too. And it's got enough power with Android and the chipset they've put in here that it can play whatever I really want. I've got a bunch of retro games, but I'm also playing some games off the Google Play Store as well. And the screen being OLED and 5 inches, it's a beautiful screen.
Yeah. I repurchased a 1 terabyte SD card. As I mentioned before, I broke mine when trying to mod the Odin 2 Portal.
That's a shame. Those 1 terabyte ones are a little bit spendy.
Yeah.
It was €100 worth of damage on my end.
Yeah.
It was my fault. The plan is to load my entire library, starting with GameCube and PSP. Put all of that on here, and for the past week, for the past 2 weeks, actually, it's been the only handheld that I've used. Most of my gaming time lately, we are going to talk about our gaming time in NPC XL this week. But most of my gaming time lately has been either in front of my monitor, this one that I'm using right here with my Xbox. So playing Oblivion or Clair Obscur on the Xbox, or using the Flip 2, just streaming Xbox. I've just been streaming with the Flip 2 so far. I still haven't downloaded any games from the Google Play Store or installed any other emulators. And it's been terrific for that. And the one thing that I mentioned on NPC XL when we talked about this, and that I've actually kept doing, is using the Flip for a media consumption type scenario, like watching YouTube or listening to Spotify or listening to Pocket Casts, while using this what looks like a console is a console, but since it's running Android and all of my apps are on also on Android, like my podcasts, my videos, and music with Spotify, it's been a nice experience, especially because you can just open this thing, prop it up anywhere, because it's a clamshell device, and just listen to audio instead of playing video games. It's been great for that, and I love the screen. I still love the screen. It's not as huge and vibrant as the Portal, but I love it. Like it's so I don't need to worry about taking this thing anywhere. I can just toss it in a bag. Doesn't matter. I can just make it slide across my desk or my kitchen table, and I don't care because I know that the screen won't be damaged. I love this thing. I really like this thing.
Yeah, I think being able to prop it up is an interesting point because, that's something that I try to do with my iPhone fairly frequently, where I'll take a break to have lunch and maybe I'll watch a YouTube video or something. But you have to find a way to prop your phone up if you don't have some kind of kickstand stand already attached to it. And with this, you just open it up, set it down on the table, and, have some Bluetooth headphones, and it's very easy to watch something, which is not something I expected that I would use this for, but I have done it a few times myself as well. The other thing I would mention is that the materials of this thing, the build quality, is just really, really solid. It feels like a premium device. It's got a bit of a heft to it and a lot of really tight tolerances where it doesn't feel like it's squeaky or loose or shaking. And a lot of the things you might find from one of those Anbernic fold up ones. So yeah, I've been really happy with it.
Yeah, same. And I think the thought I keep coming back to is that if no other handhelds, beyond the Nintendo Switch 2, obviously, come out this year, I think I'll just be happy with the Flip 2 for the rest of the year, for the things I want to do with it, and for some other surprises that I will share soon on NPC that I've been teasing privately to John and Brendon. They have no idea what's coming, but I think I'll be set. Like if that happens, that there's no other AN device, no other Anbernic device. If all I have is the Flip 2 from now till the end of 2025, I'll just be happy because I really love this thing. So,
I'm gonna get one.
You should. You really should.
There's like no world in which I don't get one at this point. The 8 minutes I got to hold yours, John, at my wedding, I was like, damn.
Yeah,
I gotta get one.
It is one of those devices. The minute you pick it up, you're like, "Oh yeah, this is it. That's
the one." Yeah.
So, if you can buy it, and if you are a US-based listener, hopefully Retroid will be able to ship one. No idea about the pricing with the tariffs right now, but if
as they said when we talked about it at the top of the show, they're not planning at this point to raise prices, and they have a new shipper. So I think you might be in luck. So it's worth checking out and seeing. I mean, who knows how long that sticks, but so far they've said that they're holding prices and they're still shipping.
Well, it's $20, I think, right? It's
for the shipping. I think that's
shipping.
true.
Yeah, that's about it though. Which is not as horrible as it could be.
No.
Yeah. And that, my friends, I think about does it for this week's episode of NPC. People, you can now send us feedback. If you have thoughts, comments, questions, things we should know about the Conclave, for example, you can just go to macstories.net/podcasts, where you will find an unmistakable button that you can click to send us feedback about NPC. You can write as much as you want. You just need to provide an email address because we're using a Google form. So that's how it works. You can send us feedback there. And of course, if you want, we would love for you to join our Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to NPC XL, which is an additional version of NPC where we get to talk about additional topics for our Patreon subscribers. And this week, we're going to be talking about gaming as adults and finding our gaming time and managing relationships while also being a gamer. The good stuff. You can find us on Patreon at Next Portable Console.
Great.
Yes. And that's it for this episode. You can find us all online. Brendon's over at wavelengths.online and Into the Aether and YouTube and all other sorts of places. Federico and I over at macstories.net. You can find us on social media too, along with Brendon. Just search for our names. You'll find us wherever you enjoy doing social media. That's it for this week, folks. Check out our Patreon. We'd love it. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.